guys, and welcome to my channel. If you're new, I'm Adrian and Kiwi is my parrot. So today I'm going to be showing you how to work up my spider stitch hoodie. A lot of you guys have probably seen this hoodie on my channel. So far I have completed 2 of them and I have a third one in the works. So this will actually be the start of a 4th hoodie that I'm showing you in the tutorial. I did want to come on here though at the beginning to talk a little bit about how this came about. So back in like September-ish, I was getting ready to go to Missouri to help my dad because he had just had, or he was going in to have shoulder surgery. And, you know, Missouri's a lot colder than Texas, and so I wanted to make a hoodie that that I could wear up there. And I will throw a picture of that hoodie over here, as well as another one that I started while I was in Missouri using a different yarn. That's how this hoodie came about, and I was looking through stitches and I came upon the spider stitch on Rich Textures channel, and I will link her channel below if you guys are interested in checking out her channel. Excuse me, I'm still in the process of drinking coffee this morning. Actually, I'm drinking cappuccino. So I came across this spider stitch. It is a closed stitch, so it's got a thicker fabric. It creates a thicker fabric. And I really liked it and thought it would be a good hoodie, you know, stitch. And then of course Casey seen me working on that first hoodie, and not only did she want a hoodie, but she also wanted me to make her a matching pajama set. So sometime in the future I will also be using this stitch to design some matching top and bottoms pajama set. I already went and bought the yarn for that. She's pretty excited about that. Now, in regards to assembly, it initially occurred to me that I could do the front panel and the back panel as one piece and then eliminate the necessity to sew across the shoulders. However, the spider stitch is a variation on the V-stitch, so it comes to a point. And if I had done it all in one piece, the V-stitches in the front, or the spider stitches in the front, would be pointed up this way, and then when you got to the back, they'd be pointing down, and I just didn't care for that. So I decided to design this pattern using panels. It is done by measurements, so you can technically use any yarn and any hook that coordinates with that yarn. So for the first 2 hoodies, the striped one that I made with wool ease and the one that I made with the latte cakes, I used a 6.5mm hook for the body and a 5.5mm for the ribbing. For today's tutorial though, I will be using the Caron Cinnamon Swirl cakes. My niece's birthday is coming up and her favorite color is orange, so her mom and I picked out this colorway. It is a weight 4 yarn. The difference between this one and this one is of course the halo. In the gray one that I did complete, that's how I got that halo look, was by using the Caron latte cakes. Now, because this has a halo, it recommends a 6.5 millimeter hook, and I used a 6.5 millimeter hook with the two that I've already completed. Now, with this one, the one that you'll be seeing in the tutorial today, I am going to be using a smaller hook for the body, a 5.5 millimeter, in fact. And then, just mostly because it doesn't have the halo, so it will be okay to use a slightly smaller hook. Also, for today, I'm going to be making a girl's or a youth's size 6 hoodie. So in regards to figuring out what size you should make, the Crafty Yarn Council has some really good sizing charts that cover everything from bust measurements to back to waist measurements, which are the two main measurements that we're going to be using today. And so I will be linking those down in the description box for you guys to check out. The two completed hoodies I made are both an extra large, and they used about 2,000 yards of yarn. Four latte cakes for the gray one, and I think I used 10 balls of woolies to make the very first one. Now this one I'm making up is much smaller, obviously, because it's a child's size and it's a size 6. So I'm only actually using 3 yards, or 3 balls of the Caron Cinnamon Swirls. This, if you're not familiar with it, it's 100% acrylic, and it has 407 yards in it, but I'm thinking that should be more than enough. I think, 4 or 3 balls, 3 cakes should be more than enough to make a size 6 hoodie. So that's what we're going to be working with today. Now, do check the description box. I will leave the list of materials in the description box. Also, I do have a written pattern coming out for this particular hoodie. It's still in the works, but I will be releasing that to my Etsy shop and my Ravelry shop as well. I just gotta finish getting it all written up. And I think that covers about everything. So I guess let me get the camera turned around and we'll get into the tutorial. Alright guys, so for this tutorial, like I said, I'm going to be using a Caron Cinnamon Swirl cake. I've actually got 3 of them to work this hoodie up in a size 6 girls. This colorway is called Heatwave, and it is a weight 4. Now, the recommended hook size is a 5 millimeter. However, I am going to be using my Kiwi hook, which is a 5.5 millimeter. And if you are interested in these kinds of hooks, you guys know I am absolutely obsessed with them, and I have a huge collection of them. They are hand sculpted by a lady on Etsy, and I will link her. I'll link her Etsy shop in the description box below. Right now, like I said, she hand sculpts them, but the tips, you get a choice of Susan Bates, boy, or clover. This one is actually a clover tip, and they come in a myriad of different sizes. I think at this point I have already collected all of the sizes that she offers in boy and clover. But anyways, so when you go to start this hoodie out, you're going to need to know the chest measurements. After looking at the Crafty Yarn Council, I learned that a size 6 girl's chest measurement is 25 inches. And so what you're going to want to do is you're going to figure out what your chest measurement is, and then you're going to add 2 inches to that. So in my case, it was 25, and just because I'm making this for my niece, instead of adding 2, I went ahead and added 3 inches just for a bit of positive ease. Typically you would do 2 inches of positive ease, but in her case I did 3 just because she's a growing kid, and that way she'll be able to wear this a little bit longer. And then once you have that number, you're going to go ahead and divide that number by 2. That way you can know how wide your front panel has to be and how wide your back panel has to be. So in my case, my total number was 28. If you divide that by 2, you get 14. So here I have this chain worked up, and it does measure 14 inches. Now, what you have to do, you have to chain a number that is even, that is the proper width for your piece. So in my case, I chained 52 chains. That gave me 14 inches, and that's going to be the width of my, that'll be the width of my front panel and back panel, because we're going to use the same number of chains for the back panel as we did the front panel. So whatever number you chain, keep that in mind if you have to write it down, because we're going to come back to that number at a later date. Now, once you have your chains done, like I said, I've already got mine worked up. That's because technically this is take 2 of this tutorial. Let me just get my light turned on so you guys maybe can see it a little bit better. Once you get your chain worked up, we're going to turn and we're going to work into the back bumps of your chain stitches. And we're going to place 1 single crochet in each one of these back bumps. And the reason for this is because the spider stitch, you can work it directly into the chain stitches. However, it is a thicker, it creates a thicker fabric, and what can happen is when you work into the chains directly, it kind of causes a bowing effect of your foundation chain. So to help to kind of alleviate that, I like to go into the chains and work in that back loop, just placing a single crochet all the way across. Also, it gives your piece this nice edge down here, which later we'll be working into when we go back to do the ribbing for the sweater, but it does give you this nice, edge to work into later down the road. You can see that they're nice little V's. So I am going to go ahead and work my row of single crochets, and I will meet back up with you guys when I am ready to start the first row of spider stitch. Alright, so you can see I've reached the end of my single crochet round or row, and what we're going to do next, we're just going to chain 1 and turn our work, and the starting chains. For a second I was drawing a blank. The starting chains do not count as stitches in this pattern. So we're going to chain 1, turn our work, and we're going to place a single crochet in that first stitch. In this next stitch, we're going to do our very first spider stitch, and that's going to consist of a single crochet, a chain 1, and a single crochet, all in that same stitch. Then we're going to skip 1, and we're going to spider stitch in the next stitch. So skip 1 and then place 1 single crochet, 1 chain, and 1 single crochet. So basically what we're doing is we are just skipping 1, placing a spider stitch, skipping 1, placing a spider stitch. And we're going to do that all the way to the end of the row until we have only 2 stitches left. And it goes pretty quick once you get the rhythm of it. Also, something I forgot to mention, with your single crochet row, you should have the same number of single crochets in this row as you did chain stitches. Just for, you know, just so that you know that. I should have mentioned that a few moments ago. But we're just going to go all the way down. And my light has gone out. It probably needs to be charged. I am sorry about that, guys. Anyways, I am going to go ahead and charge my light and then finish this row up, and I will meet back up with you guys when I have gotten down here where we only have 2 stitches left to go, and I'll show you guys what to do from there. Alright guys, I'm back, and hopefully my light stays on this time. So I've reached the end of the first row of spider stitches, and we're just going to skip over this single crochet here, and we're going to place a single crochet right into the very last stitch on the row. So this is what it's starting to look like. So you can see this kind of bowing action that's going on, it kind of bows a little bit. That row of single crochet that we did, that's to try to help keep this from bowing out like that. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and measure mine now that we've got the first row of spider stitch done. Remember, I was looking for a width of about 14 inches. And mine measures almost about 16, so I did overshoot it a little bit, but that's okay. That is okay. Like I said, it gives her plenty of room to grow. She can use it for a little while, you know what I mean? So to start the next row, we are going to chain 1 and turn our work, and this is going to be our repeat row. So we're going to place 1 single crochet in that first stitch, and then we're going to skip this one here and jump into the chain space of that first spider stitch. We're going to jump in right here into that chain space of the very first spider stitch, and we're going to place another spider stitch. So we're going to single crochet, chain 1, single crochet into that chain 1 space. This time For the next one, we're going to skip 2 stitches, so skip this one, and then we're going to jump into the next chain 1 space of the next spider stitch, and we're going to place another spider stitch. So we are just placing spider stitches on top of spider stitches. And we're going to go down the row, and we're going to do that all the way down until we have 2 stitches left, and that is what it's going to look like. Like I said, it is a closed stitch, and this is a yarn eater. These sweaters do take a lot of yarn, so depending on what yarn you pick out to use, you'll need to consider that when you go to purchase your yarn, or when you go to pick out your yarn, you need to consider that this is a yarn eating stitch. It's meant to be because it's a hoodie. It's for winter. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and finish up this row, and then I will meet back up with you when I'm towards the end of the row, and then we will discuss how to move on from this point. Alright guys, so I'm back. And you can see I have 1 more spider stitch here to go, and I'm going to skip my 2 stitches, and I'm going to go right into that chain 1 space and place another spider stitch. That's going to be the last spider stitch for this row. And then I'm just going to skip this stitch here and put a single crochet in the last stitch of the row, so that it's all nice and neat. That edge is where it's supposed to be. Hopefully I stayed in frame. I don't know. I wasn't looking up. So at this point, you're going to need to know what your back to waist length measurement is. In my case, I referred to the Craft Yarn Council, and it says that the back waist length for a child size 6 sweater is going to be 10.5 inches. Now, first off, I'm going to round that up to 11 inches because it's easier. And then what I am going to do is I am actually going to subtract 5 inches from that, because since this sweater is a V-neck, we're going to have to we're going to repeat this row up until about 5 inches from the length that you want your sweater. And I say that because we're going to have to make a V for the V-neck in the front later on down the road. So in my case, I will be repeating this row until my piece measures about 6 inches long, at which point I'll be starting the V-neck. So I'm going to go ahead and chain 1, turn my work, and start on those rows. And hopefully, I don't know if I'm staying in frame like I should be. I feel like I'm not. But I'm going to work up those rows, and then I'll be meeting up back with you guys to show you guys how to do the V-neck for this sweater. Now, where you place your V-neck can be adjusted, whether or not, depending on how low cut you want your neckline to be. Mine is, for my niece, she's only 5 years old, so I don't want a neckline that's going to be super, super low cut on her. You know, some people maybe don't mind their neckline being right up on their neck or on their throat. Personally, it bugs me. That's why I made this one as this sweater as a V-neck. But you can adjust it, and to adjust where you would like to place your V-neck, you're just gonna either add or subtract rows of spider stitch. But I will meet back up with you guys when I get to the point where I am ready to start my V-neck, so that I can show you guys how I did that. Alright guys, so I'm back, and as you can see, I've done quite a bit of work. I went ahead and I did 7.5 inches, just because I was a little concerned about the front being too low cut on my knees. But if you're doing an adult size or a child size, you can alter how many rows you do. You're just gonna, for a basic guide of how to do this, you're gonna do as many rows as it takes for your piece to measure about 5 to 6 inches less than what you want your desired length to be if you're doing an adult sweater. If you're doing a child size sweater, I would suggest crocheting enough rows that your piece measures approximately 3, maybe 4 inches shorter than what you want your total to be. I'm shooting for approximately 11 inches, not including the ribbing that we'll be putting down at the bottom. So I went ahead and I did about 7.5. I don't know if you guys can see that. It's almost 8 inches. Almost. It's just over. It's about 7 3/4. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna count. We're gonna find the centermost spider stitch. Now, I already know mine has 25 spider stitches across. So for an odd number, you're just gonna count and find that centermost spider stitch. So let me zoom in real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 is going to be my centermost stitch or spider stitch, and we're just going to mark that that chain space in the middle of that. Now, if your piece has a total of, say, 26 or an even number of spider stitches, you're going to mark the 2 most center spider stitches. And that will be where we start the V. We'll be moving up this way. So to start out, I'm just going to chain 1 and turn my work. And I'm going to work just like I was doing before, up until I reach that stitch marker. So single crochet in the first stitch, skip 1 stitch, spider stitch in that first chain space, if my yarn would stop getting caught, that would be great. And we're just going to spider stitch all the way across until we reach that stitch marker. Just placing a spider stitch in each chain space. So I have one spider stitch left. Hopefully you guys can see that. And I am just going to place a spider stitch in there. Just like that. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to place a single crochet right here in this very next stitch. So the stitch right next to the chain 1 space, we're going to place a single crochet in. And then we're going to chain up 1 and turn our work. We are going to place a single crochet in that first stitch. And this time we're going to be doing a little bit different. We're going to be decreasing the spider stitch. So we're going to skip this next stitch, and in that chain 1 space we're going to place a single crochet, and then we're going to chain 1, and then we're going to jump all the way over into the next spider stitch, and in that chain 1 space we're going to place another single crochet. Now we're going to skip the 2, let me see if I can get this more centered maybe a little bit. We're going to skip these 2 next stitches and jump right into the next chain 1 space, and we're going to place just a regular spider stitch. And we're going to go ahead and work the rest of the row in spider stitches. So we're just going to, like we normally would, just placing spider stitches into the chain 1 spaces. Last spider stitch for this row, and then we will be putting a single crochet in that last stitch. We're going to chain 1 and turn our work. Now this time we are going to be, I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see this very well, but that's our chain 1 that we made. And we're going to spider stitch all the way across until we hit this spider stitch here, because we're going to be decreasing over this spider stitch and this spider stitch. So in that first stitch we're going to place our single crochet, and then in the first chain space we will place our first spider stitch, and we're just going to go all the way across. Oh, I went one too far. Okay, so once we've made it to the second to last chain space, we're going to do the same thing we did before and decrease over them. So we're going to skip these 2 stitches, jump into that chain 1 space and single crochet. Then you're going to single crochet, you're going to chain 1, and you're going to see these 2 stitches here. We're going to skip over those, and it's going to feel a little bit bigger, but that is a chain 1 space, and you're going to go into that chain 1 space and single crochet. And then you're also going to see a single crochet here, which is the other, I guess you would call it, side of your first spider stitch, and then you're going to see a single crochet here next to it, and that's going to be your last single crochet. You're going to place one right in there. And then we're going to chain one, turn our work. So again, we are going to place a single crochet in the first stitch. We're going to find that larger hole. We're going to skip over this single crochet, find that larger hole, that chain one space, place a single crochet, chain one, skip over 2 stitches, jump into that next chain one space, and single crochet. Then we're going to skip over 2 stitches into the next chain one space, and we're just going to place a regular chain or a regular spider stitch. And we're going to spider stitch all the way across to the end of the row. So that was actually 3 decreases. If you want to have a lower cut top, you can make your decrease, you can do, you know, a couple extra rows of decreases if that's what you want. I just like to do enough decreases to make the V neckline where it's not like choking up on my neck. So I usually don't do too heavy of a or too deep of a neckline. Plus, with the added hood that we're gonna do later, it will be fine. But if you want a deeper V-neck, you can do more decrease rows. And what it's gonna do is it's just gonna bring that in even further. It'll bring this V-neck up at a wider angle, basically. So now we're gonna chain one and turn our work. And we're going to single crochet in that first stitch. And this time we're just going to single crochet all the way across. Or not single crochet all the way across. I'm sorry. I don't know where my mind is right now. It's very late at night. We're going to spider stitch all the way across. So when you get to the end of your row, you're going to notice that maybe your piece is a little bit puffy right here. That's okay. It's normal. It will flatten out as we go along. As we add rows, it will flatten out. The weight of the yarn will flatten it out. And it won't be puffy right here anymore. So right here is where my other decrease was, and so I'm just gonna skip these 2 single crochets right here, and then I'm gonna jump into this chain one space, and I'm gonna place just a regular spider stitch, and then I'm gonna skip this single crochet and single crochet into the next stitch. And you can see that gives you a little bit of an angle here. When we go to do the other side, it'll be the same thing. So we're going to chain one and turn our work. And this time we are just going to place a single crochet in the first stitch. And then we're going to place spider stitches in each of the chain one spaces, and this is going to be our repeat row. We will continue to do this until our piece measures from bottom to top. you want it to measure whatever your desired length is. And so in my case, I will repeat this row on just this side of the front panel until my piece measures about 11 inches. And I will meet back up with you guys as soon as I complete that portion of the tutorial, and then I will come back on here and show you guys how to do the other side of your front panel. What is going on here? So yeah, just spider stitches all the way across, just like we were doing down here. You're just going to repeat that row until you have your desired length for your cardigan or for your hoodie. Alright guys, so I am back, and you can see I have completed the one side. So this is the little V-neck. I'm making a much smaller piece than probably most of you guys are, but this is my little V-neck, and then this goes up, and this will be the shoulder. When we go to seam our panels together, this will be the shoulder. Now at this point, you're gonna need to know how many rows that you worked from the bottom up. You need to know how many rows of spider stitch you did. I did a total of 39 for this particular hoodie, and you can see, if you look very closely, you can see like that's a row, that's a row. They have these nice little V type looking things going on, and that's how you count them. So keep that number in mind, maybe write it down, because you are going to need to know how many rows you did, so that your back panel can be the same length. So there's that. Also, something I wanted to point out, earlier in the tutorial I mentioned the bowing here at the bottom, but as you can see, as we've worked rows, it's straight. So keep in mind the number of chain stitches you did at the bottom so that you can do the same number for your back panel, and then you're also going to keep track of the number of rows that go up for the length, so that you can have the same number for your back panel. Now, to start the other side, it's basically the same thing except backwards. Let me get my light turned on here, because I always seem to forget to turn it on. I've already got my slip knot on there, and when you go to do the other side, you're gonna have the panel facing you so that when you worked the first one, we worked from the outside of the panel in. So to work the other side, we're going to continue to work inwards. So this time we're going to work from inside to outside, if that makes sense. So you're going to want that side of the panel facing you so that you'll be able to work from the inside to the outside. So on this one, it's an odd number, an odd numbered spider stitch count. The written directions, the written pattern has directions more detailed on how you work the even numbers. But for the odd, you're going to rejoin your yarn not in this spider stitch, but you're going to go into you're going to go to the next spider stitch, and there is a single crochet, that first single crochet that starts that spider stitch you are going to slip stitch into. Yes, Kiwi baby. And then in that same stitch, you're going to chain 1 and place a single crochet. Just like that. Now, in the chain space of that spider stitch, you are going to place another single crochet, and then we're going to chain 1 and jump right into the chain space of the next spider stitch, and that's how we decrease. That's how we do a spider stitch decrease. So we've actually decreased over this spider stitch here and this one here. So we're gonna jump into the next spider stitch and place a spider stitch in that chain 1 space, and we're gonna just spider stitch all the way to the end of the row, just placing your spider stitches in those chain 1 spaces. And for this hoodie I only did 3 decreases. The written pattern does have you do 5 because it's written for an adult size hoodie, but you can do as many decreases or decrease rows as you want. Just the more decrease rows you do, the wider your V is going to become. And then we're going to single crochet in this last stitch. Chain 1, turn our work, and we're going to place a single crochet in that first stitch. This time we are going to spider stitch all the way across until we have just 1 spider stitch left. And if you look, we'll have this 1 spider stitch plus we'll have that spider stitch decrease right there. So we're going to go ahead and work our spider stitches in each of the chain 1 spaces. Okay, and now in this next spider stitch we are just going to jump into that space and place a single crochet. We're going to chain 1 and we're going to jump right into this chain space here, which does feel a little bit bigger, and we're going to place a single crochet. We're going to skip over this stitch here and we're going to place a single crochet into the last stitch of the row. Then we're going to chain 1, turn our work. Again, in that first stitch we're going to place a single crochet, and then we're going to jump over into this decrease and place a single crochet, and then we're going to chain 1 and jump over into the next chain space to form our decrease, and then we're going to go on to our spider stitches like we normally would. And for me, that is the 3 decreases that I chose to do. Like I said, if you're following the written pattern, it will ask you to do 5 decreases. You can technically do as many as you would like, but it will make your V stitch wider, and your shoulders will be a little bit narrower. And if you forget how many decreases you have done, a trick to that, so I know that from here to here was 12 spider stitches, because our centermost one is the 13th. So for example, in my situation, we decreased 3 times, so that's one. You can count these little bumps and know how many spider stitches you have. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 bumps there, and then we have this chain 1 space, which is actually our decrease, so that would make 9. So now we're going to chain 1, turn our work. This time we are just going to be working spider stitches. So single crochet into that first stitch, and then you're going to place spider stitches in each chain 1 space, which in my case will be 9 spider stitches. Depending on the size that you're working, yours will most likely be different. So here I am at that chain 1 space. We're going to skip those 2 stitches, and we're going to place a spider stitch in that hole there. We're going to skip this single crochet and single crochet in the last stitch. Now, I know that it looks a little bit wonky, like it doesn't quite match, but later on we will be going around the edge to straighten up these edges and make them look more symmetrical. So from this point on, just like with the other side, we are going to just be working our regular rows. Chain 1, turn your work, single crochet in that first stitch, and then we will be placing 1 spider stitch in each stitch across until we get to the end, and then we will single crochet in this last stitch over here. And that's going to be your repeat row until you have the same number of rows on this side of your front panel as you do on the first side. I'm not really sure how many rows I worked up on the first side. I just know total is 39, so I'll work up a couple rows and then count. Once I hit 39, I will fasten off, and then we can move on to making the back panel, which is probably the easiest part of this hoodie because it's just a great big square that matches your width and length of your front panel. So I will meet back up with you guys when I am ready to start my back panel, and I will give you the quick rundown on how to get that started. Alright guys, so I am back and we are starting our back panel. To start the back panel, you are going to need to chain the same number that you started out with for your front panels so that they will be the same width. For me, that number was 52. Whatever your number is, it should be an even number. And then once you have your chain, we are going to be working into these back loops or these back bumps just like we did before, and we're going to be placing a single crochet into each one of these back bumps to give it that nice finish that our front panel has down at the bottom edge. And when you are finished doing your row of single crochet, you should have the same number of single crochets as you did chain stitches. So for example, in my case, I will have 52 single crochets. So I am going to work up this row and then I will meet back up with you guys. The back panel is super easy, so we are just going to be doing rows of spider stitch. So yeah, I'll meet back up with you guys here in a moment. Alright guys, so I have completed my row of single crochets, and just like with the front panel, it is a little bit twisty, a little bit bowed, but like I showed you with the front panel, it will straighten out here at the bottom as we go along. I don't know if I showed you guys the front panel and the way that mine looks. Hopefully, I'm hoping this will be a big enough hole for a 5-year-old's fat little head. I'm thinking it probably will. It should be. It'll be okay. If not, then I guess her cousin will get a orange hoodie and I'll have to make another one. Anyways, so to start the first row of spider stitch, we're going to do just like we did on the torso portion of the front panel. We're going to chain 1, turn our work, single crochet into that first stitch, and then in the second stitch we're going to place a spider stitch. So single crochet, chain 1, single crochet, all in that first stitch. And then we are going to be skipping 1 stitch, and we're going to place a spider stitch in that stitch. Skip 1, spider stitch, skip 1, spider stitch, and we're going to work that all the way across till we get to the end of the row, and then of course at the end of the row we will skip 1 and single crochet into the last stitch. Okay guys, so I'm back. I have finished my first row of spider stitch. So I'm going to go ahead and skip this last one and single crochet into, or skip this one and then single crochet into the last stitch on the row. Chain 1, turn my work, single crochet into that first stitch, and this is going to be our repeat row. And all you're going to be doing is placing that first single crochet into every first stitch, and then in all of the chain spaces for your spider stitches, you're going to place another spider stitch, and you're going to do that for as many rows as you had for your front panel. For example, I had 39 total rows for my length of I had 39 total spider stitch rows. So I'm going to repeat this row. This will be my second row of spider stitch, so I'll repeat it 38 times since we already have 1 row completed. But like I said, you're just putting the spider stitches in the chain 1 spaces of the spider stitches from the previous row, and then at the ends of each row you're placing a single crochet here, and of course the beginning single crochet. And that is really all there is to the back panel. Like I said, it is the easiest part of this hoodie. We're just making a great big square out of spider stitch. So I am going to work this up, and I will meet back up with you guys to show you what it looks like, and then we will move on to how to make the kangaroo pocket. Alright guys, so here is my back panel. For me, I did 39 rows, and this is the same length and width as my front panel. We're going to be moving on to the kangaroo pocket next, because before we assemble these two pieces, we're going to have to attach the kangaroo pocket to the front panel. So, moving that aside, let's see if I can get my yarn untangled. Believe it or not, I still have not gone through one full cake of the Caron Cinnamon Swirls. I'm still on the very first one. So I'm making a much smaller version of this hoodie. So the way I usually do the kangaroo pocket is, depending on what you chained for your front panel, you're going to chain half that number. So in my case, I chained 52 for my front panel. Half of that was 26. So I went ahead and chained my 26 chain stitches, and then just like with the front and the back panels, I did single crochet in each stitch in the back loop, or not loop, the back bumps of those chain stitches. And I'm just coming up on starting my first row of spider stitch. So when you go to make your kangaroo pocket, if you divide your front panel chain number by 2 and it happens to be an odd number, go ahead and add 1 chain just to make it an even number, because like I said, to do the spider stitch you have to have an even number. So you can just add or subtract 1. It doesn't matter. Later down the road, once the pocket is finished, we're going to do our best to line it up in the center. You are also, I maybe have mentioned it at the beginning of the video, but you're going to need to be able to surface crochet if you want to do the kangaroo pocket, if you want to attach the kangaroo pocket the same way that I did. If not, that is okay. It can be sewed on if you want to do it that way. You can do it that way as well. So for me, when I work up the adult size kangaroo pockets, the way I do it is I will work enough regular rows that I can fit my hands in. So I will go, like I would put it, I'd be like this. I'd make that many rows of spider stitch, just plain old spider stitch. That way the pocket is at least long enough that I can put my hands in and they will be comfortable. And you know, that's going to vary depending on how big your hands are. I mean, for me, the way I did it is I just put my hands down and I was like, okay, this is how deep this pocket needs to be, and you know, I would just measure, and that's from here to here would be how deep my pocket was before I started my decrease rows. Now, since this one is for my niece, I'm only going to be doing probably about 10 rows of spider stitch before I start my decrease rows. I don't know how big a 5-year-old's hands are, but I imagine they're much smaller than mine. But that is how you're going to measure your kangaroo pocket. You're gonna make it large enough, or you're gonna make the length large enough that you can fit your hands in. Maybe fit, you know, your phone in, or you know, your keys. You keep those things in mind when you go to measure your kangaroo pocket out. You may want to chain more so that it's a little bit wider, you know, or you may want to add a few rows so it's a bit taller. I mean, it's really up to you, but the way that I do it is I try to measure it based on the size of my hand, and that will give me the length before I start my decrease rows. So anyways, I hope I'm making sense to you guys. I'm going to go ahead and work up 10 rows of spider stitch, and then I will meet back up with you guys to show you how I do the decreases to get that little angle that kangaroo pockets tend to have. Alright guys, so I am back. I actually ended up doing just 9 rows of just spider stitch here. But like I said, you can do as many as you like to, you know, size your pocket the way you want. I'm getting ready to show you guys how to do the decreases. We're going to be decreasing on both sides so that we can get that kind of angle that kangaroo pockets have. And then when we're finished with that, we are going to be lining this pocket up, something to the effect of this, and we are going to be surface crocheting the sides as well as the top portion of the kangaroo pocket, and we're going to be doing that in here in a little bit once we are finished with the decrease rows of our kangaroo pocket. So you can see here, let's see if I can adjust this camera. You can see here I've already reached the end of row 9, or the 9th row of my spider stitch, and I'm just going to chain 1. Okay, I've got to figure out how to adjust this camera where I will stay in frame. We're just going to chain 1 and turn our work. In that first stitch there, we're going to place a single crochet. And then we're going to skip the next stitch and go into the chain 1 space and place a single crochet. Then we're going to chain 1 and jump into the next chain 1 space of the next spider stitch, and we're going to put a single crochet. And that's going to be, there's our decrease. You can see it leaves kind of a larger hole there. That's our decrease. And then we are just going to spider stitch across until we have just two spider stitches left. So we're going to place a spider stitch in the next chain 1 space, place a spider stitch in the next chain 1 space. So I've got, this is the last one before our spider stitch decrease, for lack of a better description. I don't know what else to call it. Spider stitch decrease. So we have our last spider stitch, and we're going to skip these 2 next stitches and place a single crochet in the next chain 1 space. Then we're going to chain 1 and jump into the last chain 1 space and single crochet. We're going to skip this stitch here, and then we're going to place a single crochet into the last stitch. We're going to chain 1, turn our work, and we're going to place a single crochet into that first stitch, and then we're going to place a single crochet in this first chain 1 space. We're going to chain 1, and then we are going to skip these 2 stitches, jump into the next chain 1 space and single crochet, and you can see you get another little well, it's not little, it's bigger than the other chain 1 spaces, but you can see you get these little holes along the edge. And again, we are just going to go across and place spider stitches until we have 1 spider stitch left, and then the decrease. Alright, so we have 1 spider stitch left and the decrease, and again we're going to jump into that chain 1 space, and we're going to place a single crochet. You're going to chain 1, and then you're going to jump into the next chain 1 space and single crochet, and then we're going to skip this stitch here and single crochet in to that last stitch on the row. Something that you will notice is it does start to pucker a little bit. That is okay. It's normal for the pockets to do that. When we go to attach it to the front panel, it will flatten out. Also, we are going to be doing a round that goes all the way around the pocket to help with that a little bit as well. So what you're going to do at this point is you're going to go ahead and repeat that that row, that decrease row, and you're going to decrease it as many times as you would like. Now, usually what I do for the adult size is I will take my phone and I will angle it so that I can see that at least that angle is at least the width of my phone, so that if I want to put my phone into my hoodie pocket, it will fit. Kiwi, what are you doing, sir? I think he just scared himself. Anyways, so when I'm making the adult sizes, I will decrease until that angle, this angle right here, is at least big enough to get my phone in. Of course, because I'm making a smaller size, I'm not going to do that. I'm probably only going to decrease a couple of rounds that I'm thinking I'll probably decrease till I have maybe 3 or 4 spider stitches at the top, something of that nature. Just enough to give it that angled look on both sides is probably how I will do it. But for the adult size, if you're planning on having anything in your pocket, you do want to make it wide enough to maybe slide your phone in or whatever you happen to carry most frequently with you. And you want to just continue to decrease on both sides of your pocket until that angle is wide enough for whatever sorts of items that you have to put in your pocket are. I am going to go ahead and continue my decrease rows, and I will meet back up with you guys once I've finished my decrease rows, and then we will move on to the next step. Alright guys, I am back. As you can see, mine did not angle as much as it normally would. I assume that's because it's a smaller pocket. You know, so far I have only done adult sized pockets, and this one just did not angle up very well. That's okay. I'm sure my niece will, you know, love it regardless. And it does curl a little bit, but like I said, we are going to fix that here in a minute. Hopefully yours is angling up properly. I don't know what's going on. I mean, I think it's just because this one did not have as many rows to decrease where you could properly see the angle. Anyhow, so the next step we're going to do is we are going to chain 1, and we're going to turn our work this way, and we're going to single crochet, and we're going to go all the way around single crocheting in every stitch and in every chain. So we're going to single crochet in that first one, as well as here in the next one. We'll single crochet in that next chain space. We're going to single crochet in the 2 stitches, the next two stitches, and then as well in the chain 1 space of that spider stitch. And then we're gonna single crochet in the next 2 stitches, as well as the chain 1 space. And we're going to do that all the way across, making sure to single crochet in each stitch and in each chain space. So there I went across the top portion right there. Now we're going to be working down the decreases, and hopefully you can see there is a slight decrease there. Probably next time I make one of these in a smaller child size, what I'm probably going to do is do a decrease row and then do a regular row and then do a decrease row, and I think that's how I will have to do the child size pockets from now on, just because that's not very much space. I mean, my niece is little, but she's not that little. Anyways, so we're gonna go down this side. We're gonna go ahead, technically there's already one in this stitch, but we're gonna go in here and we're going to place one down the side, or on the side like that. We're going to place one in the side of each one of these single crochets here, in the side of each row, I guess you could say. Just like that, okay? And then here is where your regular rows start, and you're just going to place a single crochet in there. And you can see, like, there's a slight angle there, but it's not as much as I would have liked. I would have liked it to be, I don't know. It makes sense because it is a smaller sized hoodie, but this is how I did the big ones, so maybe I'll have to do a couple of these and see how I can alter this pattern to more specifically fit a smaller body, to fit a child's body. But we're just working down down the edge here, and we are placing single crochets in the ends of each row. And it doesn't matter too much whether or not your stitch count or what your stitch count is, because we are going to be surface crocheting up along this edge. Now down here you'll need the same stitch count that you had to start with, so you don't want to alter your stitch count down here while we're doing this round. But same kind of thing goes across the top. It doesn't matter too much whether or not you have, or what your stitch count is. So there I have one in the side of my single crochet row right there. I'm gonna go ahead and place one right here in my foundation chain, which is hard to see, but it is there. It kind of actually goes like this. You'd have to bring that tail over, and it's kind of a pain in my butt actually. If you can bring that yarn over that beginning knot and place your stitch over it like that, that would be helpful. You don't have to do these things, you really don't. It's just how I like to do it. But we're going to place one single crochet in each of these bottom stitches, and it should be a total of whatever you chained. In my case, it should be a total of 26 stitches. Yeah, Kiwi's got a lot to talk about tonight. Also, another thing too that I wanted to mention, when it comes to the puckering, it is okay for it to pucker a little bit. We are talking about a pocket, so it doesn't have to be completely flat. This is something that, you know, your hands are going to be in. You're going to put stuff in. It's okay for it to be a little bit puckered. You just need it flat enough that you can sew it on there. Or in our case, surface stitch, because I did mine with surface, not surface stitch, but surface crochet. And the biggest reason that I went ahead and designed it with this edging around it is just simply to clean up those edges. If you look real closely at the first hoodie that I made, I did not go around the edges like this. And so the edges on the kangaroo pocket are a bit rough. So I needed 26 starting in this one. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. So that last, this is my last one on the bottom. And it's going to be the hardest to get into, I'm sure. And then we're going to work our way back up the side, just placing single crochets around. One in the side of each row. Also, if you really want a flat pocket, you can block this piece out before you attach it. I'm sure that would help. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and put another one right here just because, and then we are going to slip stitch to join this round. It still looks wonky to me. That is because I have never done a smaller size version of this hoodie, but like I said, it'll be okay. It's a little bit different than the bigger one. Not in method or technique, but in the way it's turning out as far as the way it's looking. So there is my kangaroo pocket. Now I am gonna go get the accent color that I'm using, which unfortunately on my project is black. So I doubt you guys will be able to see the exact stitching. My niece wants orange and black, but we will be surface crocheting this piece here. We are going to be lining it up and pinning it down, and then we are going to be surface stitching surface crocheting the sides and the top, and then this edge as well. Now the bottom we're not going to be doing that with. The bottom is actually going to be attached when we go to put on our bottom ribbing. So for now, the bottom of the pocket is going to stay open. But I am going to go ahead and go get my accent color and walk you through real quick on how to attach the pocket with surface crochet. Alright guys, so for my accent color I am just using plain old black. This one is from Walmart. It's Walmart brand Mainstays, 100% acrylic yarn, 397 yards. It's a medium weight 4, just like the Caron Cinnamon Swirl. And the recommended hook is a 5.5 millimeter, which is what we're going to be using to surface crochet our pocket on. Looking at, let me zoom out. Looking at our pieces, you're gonna have to decide which side of the front panel you want on the outside. The easiest way, at least for me, to tell which side is which is by looking at the single crochet row. And you want those rows to match up. You can see a little bit of a difference. Hopefully you guys can see it on camera. But if you look at your single crochet rows, you'll see a little bit of a difference in the way the stitches lay. Also, another way you can tell is on this panel, my V's are pointing that way, and then on this panel my V's point that way. So I have my two pieces with the, let me check, one of my sides of my back panel has a knot in it, and so I have my panels with the outsides or the right sides in. I need to flip them over, because if you look, my back panel has a little knot and I want that to be on the inside. So if I'm going to put my pocket on the front, I need to flip over my panel, and we're going to add my pocket right here in the front. And with your pocket, you want these crochets to be going the direction that you crochet them, so you don't want the wrong side out You could, I guess you could technically do it that way. I just don't care for the back side of the single crochet to be showing, so I'm gonna do mine this way. And the next thing we need is stitch markers. We're gonna move this back panel out of the way, and then we are going to find our stitch markers. Now, it's perfectly okay if your pocket does not line up exactly to the T perfectly right. That's not a big deal. It's an easy fix. You know. Now, on the bottom row, I like to do it stitch for stitch. So down here, I like to line it up so that when I go to add my bottom ribbing, I can do that, and this will work out stitch for stitch on both the pocket and the panel. But for the moment, we are going to work on the top and the sides, and the way that we do that is you're going to find about the center of your pocket, which for me is about right here. It's not exact on my pocket, but it's right about there, and you're going to line it up with this center point, the centermost of your V neck, and then keeping that point where it's at, you're going to line your bottom of your pocket up with the bottom edge of your front panel, and you're gonna pin that where it's at. So let me zoom out and see if I can show you guys. So it's gonna be right about like that. In my case, I'm going to try and attach my pocket to this row here, and I'm going to try to keep it as straight as I can across that row. Again, if it's not completely straight, it's okay. It happens. I was really upset the first time I did that, or worked one of these like that, and my surface crochet just wasn't quite where I would have liked it to be. You can use straight pins as well for this if it's easier. Also, if you prefer, you can weave this into your pocket, but I'm not gonna do that. I'm actually going to take this and pull it through. I'm gonna pull it through this stitch here, and then eventually I will be pulling it through my front panel, and then I'll weave it into the front panel. So I'm trying to go for this row here, and so I want it to kind of align as best I can with that row of spider stitches. You don't have to do it that way. It may seem like the more complicated way to do things, but I am trying to keep this top row here lined up with this row of spider stitches to the best of my ability, because I'm going to surface crochet across here, just across here. And then I'm going to go ahead and pin my sides. Actually, I might want to go one down. looking at the bottom, I might need to go just one down. I mean, that's going to be single crocheted together, so I mean, it probably won't matter too much. Well, it'll be fine. A lot of this pattern, a lot of this design is really up to you and how you want your hoodie to look. This is really just kind of a basic, you know, it's very basic. I mean, it really is up to how you want to do it. And like I said, it's not gonna line up perfectly. I think most of us that crochet regularly have already figured out that a lot of times it doesn't line up perfectly. Alright, that's a little better. So at the bottom, just for the sake of making sure that our pockets are lined up properly, I am going to find the stitch, the first stitch of the chain, which I did that, it should be this one here. And I'm going to pin that to one stitch of the front panel. I'm going to go ahead and pin that to this stitch here, and I need to count. I had 26 stitches in my pocket bottom, so I need to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, and 26. So that is our 26th stitch in the front panel. This one here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. Yes. And then we're going to do the same thing on the pocket just to make sure that we have the pocket lined up where later down the road we will be able to work stitch for stitch. So if this is our first one, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, and 26. Just like that. And so that's what it's going to look like. This area here is not going to be surface crocheted. We're going to start with the top here, just because I feel like it's easier, and then we can work down towards the bottom. And if I need to stretch or pull this pocket a little bit, that is something that can be done. There is give here, you know what I mean? It's not a huge deal. So I'm just going to show you guys how I do this. It's hard for me to explain. But basically you're just going to surface crochet this piece on there. Unless you would rather sew it. I did try sewing it, but I didn't feel like it was a very good, I didn't feel like it was sturdy enough. So I've got my slip knot on my I've got my slip knot on there, and I'm going to be placing my hook into the first stitch of the front pocket, and then I'm going to place it into the next, into the first, through the panel, basically, through the front panel, to the best of my ability, following that one row that I picked out. And then I'm going to be tightening this up around my hook, and I'm going to pull that through just like that. And this does get very awkward, I'm not gonna lie, it does get very awkward, because you're holding, because of the way you're holding your yarn and whatnot, it will get a bit awkward. And you may find that you're having to flip your piece back and forth, which is probably what I'm going to end up doing. So I'm going to go into the next space and the next space. And then I am going to yarn over and pull through both of those. And then I'm also going to be pulling through that loop on my hook. You can see right here, this is actually my tail that's starting to come through. And that piece we are just gonna pull through like that. Now, you may want to start a stitch before where your pocket is supposed to go into or supposed to be attached, just to have that. In fact, I think that's what I will go ahead and do. I don't know if you guys can tell, but I am doing this, I'm working this up almost as, I'm as new to this almost as much as you guys are in regards to working this particular size. I've done this pattern now, this will be the 4th time, and I still find things that would be easier if I did it this way or that way. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that loop up in the same row that I'm attaching my pocket to, but I'm going to pull it up in a hole that's just outside of where I want to start surface crocheting. And then we're going to go into that first stitch and then into that next stitch of the front panel, and we're going to slip stitch through both of those, and then we are going to slip stitch through this loop that's on our hook, which would be easier if I had a better way of holding on to it. So it's going to look something like that. And we're going to do that all the way across to about right here. And if you look, that is about, might even go over to here, but if we are measuring by spider stitches, this is 1 spider stitch away from the neckline, and this is also 1 spider stitch away from the neckline. So I'm going to go through here, go through the next hole in the front panel on the same row, just like that. And again, this surface crocheting is entirely optional. You can just you can just sew it if that's what you want. I just prefer to do it with the surface crochet because it is sturdier, or at least in my opinion it seemed to be sturdier. You can see that's what it's starting to look like. Later we will be going back in and tying ends together and we'll be tying ends together and weaving them in. But I am going to go ahead and surface crochet across here, and then I am going to go ahead and surface crochet my sides, which if you are choosing to do the surface crocheting on the sides, it's done the same way. You just pick a row that you want to follow on the front panel and then you surface crochet down. So I will meet back up with you guys as soon as I have my surface crocheting along the top and the sides finished. Alright guys, so I went ahead and I decided that I'm going to go ahead and show you how I do the side of the pocket. You can see it's still kind of puckered. It's a pocket. It'll be fine. I promise. I don't want anybody to think that they're doing it wrong. I only did 6 stitches. I only surface crocheted 6 stitches on the pocket, and then I actually did 2 on each end that are not attached to the pocket to give it this look. So I've already got my hook in here, but I'm going to take it out. I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how I did that, just to be thorough. So my first stitch is going to be right here, and I'm going to go right in next to it, right about here. And that's where I'm going to pull up my yarn from the back. Move that tail. So this stitch is marked, so it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I need to pull this tail back out of the way. 1. I hope you guys are being able to see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm going to be going into this one here, and I'm just going to poke it directly down and just go through both the pocket and the panel, and then I'm going to yarn over and pull through both the pocket and the panel. And then I'm going to slip stitch, and what that does is it just gives you a little bit of an anchor if you start that off the edge of your pocket. Now if you go directly into that stitch, which you can, and just start your surface crochet there, what happens is it almost looks like a little bit of a split. It doesn't seem as sturdy to me as what it should be, if that makes sense. Since I have already done the other 2 sides, I'm going to go ahead and take this stitch marker off. I don't really need it. Plus, it'll give it a little bit of wiggle room if it needs to move around a little bit while I do this. So that was our first surface crochet. Keeping it as straight as possible, we're just going to go into the next one. And also we want to try to keep this corner edge down with the stitch that it's marked with. So we're just going to go in, poke a hole through there, yarn over and pull up through both the panel and the pocket and slip stitch. And that's all we're doing. And if you have to stop and check to make sure that, you know, this last stitch is still lined up, you can do that. Like I said, it may stretch your pocket a little bit. It's okay. And if you can't tell, I am doing my best to keep this lined up. There's this texture in spider stitch. I hope you guys can see it. Like, for example, there's this row of texturing. That is what I'm using to try to keep my pocket lined up with. So I've got 1 stitch left to surface crochet, and it's going to be this one here. I'm going to go down into that stitch as straight as possible, yarn over, draw up a loop. Now, just like on that side, just like on the other side over here, I'm going to place one more slip stitch and this side is super easy because there's already a hole there. I'm just going to go in, draw up a loop, and slip stitch right there. And then I'm going to give myself a pretty decent sized amount of tail, and I'm going to go ahead and cut it. And to fasten off, I'm going to pull this loop up, but I'm not going to pull it completely up. I'm then going to take that tail, pull it through to the front, if I can get a hold of it, pull it through to the front, and then I'm going to get a hold of the tail and put the loop back on my hook, and I'm just going to pull that tail completely through to tighten this down, and then I'm just going to tighten that down real good, and then I'm going to go back through this hole and pull that tail back out this way so that it's not on the front. Now later we will probably be crocheting over these tails, so this is what my kangaroo pocket looks like after it's attached. Hopefully these little holes are big enough for my little niece to get her hands in. And we can take this stitch marker off as well. I'm thinking they should be, hopefully. So that's going to be the front panel. Now, my back panel, we are going to get ready to do the assembling for the actual body of the hoodie. So obviously this is going to be our outside, so we're going to turn that upside down like this. You can see there's a bunch of ends that have to be woven in when you're working this pattern. There's a ton of them. So on this, remember I said that if you look at your bottom stitches down here, you want those to be going opposite directions. So if our front panel is turned over and our pocket is on the inside and they are pointing that way, then on the bottom panel they should be pointing, or I mean, excuse me, on the back panel they should be pointing that way, which is exactly what we have here. That means that the two sides are exactly as I want them to be, with wrong sides turned out. And we're gonna need a bunch of stitch markers so that we can place our stitch markers in, and then we will be slip stitching the front and the back panels together. So if I start over here, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 spider stitches. So I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 spider stitches. And I'm just going to place a spider stitch in that, or a stitch marker in that spider stitch, in the chain 1 of that spider stitch, so that those two are lined up. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, and we're going to do it like that. Now I'm hoping that this hole is big enough for my 5-year-old niece. I really, really hope it is. Gosh, I hope it is. This thing looks so small to me, guys. Now, I don't know what the armhole sizes for a 6 girls sweater would be, so I'm actually gonna check the Yarn Craft Council's website real quick. So on their website, it says that the armhole depth for a child's 6 is gonna be 5 inches or 12.5 centimeters. So I'm gonna take and measure. I'm probably gonna measure 5.5 instead of just 5. And I'm probably gonna need more stitch markers, so I better get my safety pins out. I'm going to measure, I'm going to do 5.5 inches for my armholes, and I'm going to mark that row of single crochet. So about right here and about right here should be approximate. Now later when we go to slip stitching this together, we will actually be able to do it row for row, and so if we're off one, we can fix it, but approximate is perfectly fine. And I'm gonna go ahead and do this side as well, so laying these as straight as we can with each other. And actually, if you look here, you can actually follow the row across and place your stitch marker in that way as well, rather than measuring from the top down like I did already. We can just follow it all the way across and place our stitch marker in the other side, which is how I am going to go ahead and do it. So it should be right about there. Now, if you really want to be meticulous, you can just count up the rows. For every row of spider stitch, you're going to have a single crochet. So count your spider stitches up, and then you can count that same number up on this side. That way you know that your stitch marker is aligned just right. So I am going to go ahead and do that, and then I will come back on and show you guys how we are going to slip stitch this together. Now our top is going to be our shoulders, and so we are just going to be slip stitching across here, no big deal, but I'll meet back up with you guys here in a moment to show you guys how we're gonna put this all together. Alright guys, so you can see that I have actually already done the seam across one side of the shoulder as well as down the side of the sweater on this side, and because this is only for my niece, I decided to go ahead and do a single crochet instead of a slip stitch, because then I could just single crochet over my tails, and I don't have to properly weave them in, whereas with a slip stitch I would have to properly weave them in and, you know, do all of the things. So I'm going to cut a corner and we're going to single crochet over my or for my seams, just for the purposes of this tutorial. You can technically join them however you like. So the way I did this is I worked from the inside out, and I've already got my my slip knot on my hook. Let's see if I can zoom in here a bit. And we're gonna attach our yarn 2 stitches outside of where we marked. If you remember, we marked the 9th chain space on both the front and the back panel, and we're actually gonna reattach our yarn in the 2nd stitch this way from our marked chain stitch. So I've actually already pulled mine out. So here is the chain 1 space of my back panel right there, and I'm going to start in this single crochet here. So I'm going to go into this first single crochet of the front panel, and then I'm going to go through the back panel, and then I'm going to draw up a loop. And because of the way the yarn kind of flips, you can actually take this tail and throw it back here, and we're just going to single crochet over the top of that as well. And now we're just going to place 1 single crochet in each stitch through both panels, all the way down. 1 single crochet in each chain stitch. I feel like for as much work that has gone into this hoodie, or that goes into making this hoodie, I feel like it's a very basic hoodie. I don't know. Y'all can tell me in the comments below what your thoughts are on it. I feel like a lot of work goes into making this hoodie with as many panels and all the end weaving and all of that. It feels like a lot of work for something that is pretty basic. So that's what it's starting to look like. And you can see, like, my tension was clearly a little off when I did the front panel compared to the back panel, because it doesn't quite match up. But it'll work out. I will meet back up with you guys when I get done with the shoulder, and then I will show you guys how to seam up the side. Okay guys, so I finished seaming up the shoulder, and that's what it's looking like. And this is the tail end of my seam, and this is the tail end of that row of spider stitch there. And believe it or not, I'm just gonna go ahead and tie these together because it makes me feel like it'll be a little bit more secure. I don't know if it will, but it makes me feel like it's gonna be more secure. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn my work, and we're gonna be working into these stitches here. Again, we're gonna start with a slip knot on our hook. Hopefully I can get all the way down this last seam with and not have to add another cake. So I'm just gonna slip in here and then slip in that hole before taking my stitch marker out. And just like we did before, we're going to draw up with loop and pull that tail over to the side, and we're just going to crochet over it as we go. Now these single crochet rows, they're easy to tell. You just place a single crochet after each little bar. There's going to be a bar here, there's one here, there's one here, and you're going to place one in every single bar, and that is how we will get a single crochet into every stitch. Super easy to tell. Let's see, you can see like my back panel was, I guess my tension was a little bit looser when I did my back panel compared to what it was when I did my front panel. But we'll get it lined up anyways. So that's the last one. I'm going to go and cut my yarn, fasten off. And that is how I seamed up the sides of the sweater. And you know, later I will probably tie these together too, but I'm not going to do it right now. So this is what it's looking like on the inside. This is what it looks like on the inside. The rest of this sweater is actually worked directly from the body of the sweater. So the hat, or I mean the hood and the sleeves and the bottom ribbing are all going to be worked directly onto this body. And the next section, or the next part that we're going to be working on, is going to be the hood. Yeah, I guess what we need to do, since I am here with you guys at this very moment, we need to go ahead and place our stitch markers for our hood. If you recall, I only did 3 decreases. And so you can actually see, like, there's my center of my V. Let me zoom in. There's the center of my V, and then I did 3 decreases, 1, 2, and 3. And I'm going to start my hood right here in this row right above that decrease. So that's where I'm going to start my row for my hood. Now, if you are, you know, say you did 5 decrease rows, then you're going to count up 5 from your V-neck, and you're going to start your hood right about where you started the regular rows. So on this side, it's going to be 1, 2, and 3, and I should start it right about here. And I know it looks uneven, but it will be even. So the hood is gonna start from here and go up and around, and then it'll come back down here. And so that's the next thing that we are going to be working on. I need to go get some more yarn and take a break for a minute, so I will meet back up with you guys here shortly. Alright guys, so I'm sorry, I had to take a break and go eat a sandwich. I've been filming for a few hours now. We're gonna do our setup row for our hood. So to start that out, we're gonna do a standing single crochet. I've already got my first loop on my hook, so I'm just gonna go into this stitch that is marked, and we are gonna place a single crochet into that row that's marked. And you're gonna want to start on this side of your hood. If you're looking at it this way, it's gonna be this side. That way your stitches are the right side of the stitch is facing the outside. because we are working with the outside of the hoodie facing outside, if that makes sense. So we have our first single crochet in there. In that same space, we're going to place another single crochet, and then we're going to chain one, and we're going to go right into the next hole right there, and we're going to place a single crochet. So that's going to imitate, that imitates our first spider stitch. So in the next hole, we're going to place a single crochet, we're going to chain one, and then we're going to jump into this hole here and place a single crochet. And then we're going to do a single crochet in the next hole, chain one, and then in the next hole we're going to do a single crochet. And then over here we're going to do a single crochet, chain one, single crochet. Right here we're at our seam. When I can, I like to join the seam, the two sides together with a by crocheting these two holes together with a single crochet. Unfortunately, with this one, the way the stitch is played out, I'm not going to be able to do that. So I'm just going to go and do a single crochet, a chain one, and then a single crochet right there. Now we are at the back of our hoodie, and to keep with the consistency of the hoodie and the way the way these are, the spider stitches. Sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. We are going to, in this chain space, we're going to go ahead and place a full spider stitch. So in that next chain space, we're going to place a single crochet, chain one, single crochet. And then we're going to skip these two stitches, jump into the next chain one space, and spider stitch. And we're going to do that across the back of the hoodie. That way it stays consistent going up the back of the hoodie where all your spider stitches are in a row. And we're going to do that all the way across. On this side, again, we're going to skip these two stitches and fit a spider stitch right there in this chain one space. And then again, we are going to spider stitch at the seam. So we're going to be placing one single crochet into that hole. We're going to chain one, and then we're going to place another single crochet on the other side of that seam. And then we are going to go into the next available hole and do a single crochet, a chain one, and then we're going to jump into this next hole and place another single crochet. And we're going to do that again. Single crochet, chain one, jump into the next hole, single crochet. In the next hole, single crochet, chain 1, move to the next hole, single crochet. And you can see it's clearly off a little bit, because on this side we were able to do our first single crochet, and then really it's a little off from the other side, but that's okay. This, you know, at the beginning we did a single crochet, and then we did the start of our spider stitch in that same stitch. That's okay if it's a little bit off. So in the next one where there is a stitch, where the stitch marker is, we're just going to go ahead and place the single crochet that would typically end a row. So we're going to chain up 1, and then we're going to turn our work. Yes, baby bird. And then we are going to place a single crochet in that first stitch. We're going to skip 1, and in the chain, the next available chain 1 space, we're going to spider stitch. And then you should have 2 stitches. We're going to skip those, jump into the next chain 1 space, and spider stitch as well. And you're going to go ahead and place spider stitches in each chain 1 space all the way across. My yarn's getting a little bit short over here. Yes, I know, baby bird. And you can see when you get to the seam, you do have these 2 stitches here, and then there is the chain 1 space, and it is a little bit tighter than what these were. That's because this chain, or this was an actual spider stitch, not just a single crochet, chain 1, single crochet. And of course I have no idea how tall to make a hood for a 5-year-old, so I am going to be playing this one by ear. I imagine I could check. Maybe do the same length as a beanie, or maybe a little longer than a beanie. I'll have to look around for that, because I'm not sure how tall to make a hood for a 5-year-old. So I'm almost done with my row. And like I said, this is the same way that you would do it if you were making an adult size. The only difference is the measurements. And then right here in the last chain 1 space, we're going to do a spider stitch. We're going to skip this first, or this single crochet here. We're going to jump into the next one and single crochet. Chain 1, and then turn your work. At this point, all you're going to be doing is regular rows of spider stitch, just like we did to make the body and the back panel. And you're going to work as many rows as you want to until your hood is about 2 to 3 inches shorter than what you wanted it. So if you're making an adult size, you're probably going to do about a 12-inch hood, and you're going to just do regular rows of spider stitch until your hood is about 9 inches tall, at which point we will start doing decreases in the center so that we have more of a rounded hood instead of a pointed hood. And I am about out of yarn. Yeah, this cake is pretty much gone. So I am going to attach some more yarn, and then I will meet back up with you guys once I have done some more rows on my hoodie. Like I said, I'm not really sure on a child how many rows I will need to do. I'm thinking I will work up maybe about 8 inches worth of hood, and then I will start doing my decreases. But it's all going to depend on you and what size you're working. Like I said, for an adult, I would do maybe like 12 inches and work up your rows until you hit maybe, you know, 9 to 10 inches, and then you'd move on to the decrease rows. I'm gonna work up maybe 8, 7, something of that nature. This looks so small though. It really does, you guys. It looks so small to me. I'm really worried it's not gonna fit my niece. Anyways, I will meet back up with you guys here in a bit after I have done a few rows. Alright guys, see if I can adjust this camera a little bit. So I've finished doing my rows to get the height of my hood. I did end up doing 10 inches. I did a bit of research, and Google said that for child-sized hoods, usually they are about 10 inches, which is about what I have here. So I'm going to go ahead and start my decrease rows. For an adult size, I would recommend anything between 12 and 15 inches, depending on how tall you want your hood. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to find the centermost spider stitch. So for me, that's going to be the 10th spider stitch in this row. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And this will be the 10th one here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yep. Oh goodness, Kiwi's awfully loud today. Yeah, he's quite loud. So I'm gonna go ahead and chain 1 and turn my work. Kiwi, you're very loud. We're going to single crochet into that first stitch, and then we're going to spider stitch all the way across here until we have just one chain 1 space left and the spider stitch that we marked in the center. Now, if you have an even number of spider stitches across here, you will just decrease over the 2 most center spider stitches, and this will give us our rounded look for the hood. Now, if you choose to, you could just sew them together like this, but it will create a point in the back. Okay, so I've got one chain space left, and this one here that we marked. So in this one, we're going to go ahead and place a single crochet into that chain 1 space. And we're going to go ahead and remove our stitch marker, chain 1, and then we're going to place another single crochet into the next chain 1 space. And then we're going to go back to just doing spider stitches in each chain 1 space across. And I'm going to probably be decreasing at least 3 rows before I go to seam up my hood. We'll see how it looks. But depending on the size of the hood that you're making, you might want to decrease more or less. It's another one of those things, it's really all up to you. But I'll just be decreasing enough to get that rounded look in the back of the hood. So I'm going to go ahead and chain 1 and turn my work. I probably won't need this stitch marker anymore. And I'm going to single crochet in that first stitch, and then I'm going to place a spider stitch in, in each chain space until I reach 2 spider stitches before the decrease. So I've got 2 more chain spaces to place spider stitches in. So here was my decrease. I'm going to place my next spider stitch decrease over these 2 stitches here. So these 2 stitches here. I'm going to skip these, go into that next chain 1 space, single crochet, chain 1, skip 2 stitches, go into that next chain 1 space, and single crochet. Now there are 2 stitches, this one and this one. Then there's our decrease. In the decrease, we're just going to go ahead and place a regular spider stitch. And we're going to place a regular spider stitch in each chain 1 space all the way to the end of the row. So I'm going to chain 1, turn my work, and you can see it's starting to get that rounded effect. If I can get it in camera, you can kind of see it's getting that rounded curved effect right here already after just 2 decrease rows. So I'm going to single crochet in the first stitch, and again I am going to go ahead and place a spider stitch in each chain 1 space until I get to the decrease, which for me is, that's a spider stitch, is going to be right here. So I'm going to do spider stitches all the way across until I get to the point where I have 2 spider stitches, this one and this one, left before my decrease. So I'm only actually, in my case, I'll only be actually placing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I'll only be placing 7 spider stitches, and then I'll be doing another decrease. So you can see the decrease is right here, and then there's a single crochet and a single crochet, and there is your chain 1 here and a chain 1 here out of these 2 spider stitches. So we're going to jump into the next chain 1 space, and we're going to place a single crochet. We're going to chain 1, jump into the very next spider stitch, chain 1 space, and single crochet. We're going to skip 2 stitches, this one and this one, and then in the chain 1 space of our decrease, we're just going to place a regular spider stitch. And then we're going to go ahead and spider stitch in each of the chain 1 spaces all the way across. And 1 single crochet in last stitch. Oh, I'm being blinded. So you can see it's quite rounded now. It's starting to kind of fold in on itself. Which that's all I'm really looking for. So I am going to go ahead and seam up mine. Now if you want yours to be rounded a little bit more, you can do a row or 2 more of decreases in the center, but I'm going to go ahead and seam my hood up. To do that, I'm going to chain 1 and turn my work. And let's see, to show you this, I'm going to have to zoom out. With my work facing, this would be the inside of my hood. So I'm going to fold my hood like this and throw the rest of the hoodie out away from my body. And I'm going to work from this would be the outside edge of my hoodie where we would put like our edging. And with it folded in like this, I'm going to slip stitch these together, working from where the edge of the hoodie is to the center on the inside. And that way our tail, when we go to weave it in, it will be on the inside of the hood instead of like, on the outside or somewhere where it might come out after being woven in and be seen. And we're just going to go into that first single crochet, and then we're going to go into the first single crochet on the other side, and we're just going to go ahead and slip stitch those together. It's kind of an awkward way to do this, especially if you've never done seaming like this before, but it's really not that difficult. It's easy to get used to. And we're going to go into the chain 1 space, as well as the chain 1 space on the other side, and slip stitch. And we're just going to slip stitch all the way across to over here. And it's going to be a stitch for stitch thing. So I am going to go ahead and finish seaming up my hoodie, and then I will go ahead and meet back up with you guys once I have finished that, and then we will move on to the bottom ribbing of our hoodie, where I will show you how we're going to do that, as well as close up our kangaroo pocket in the process of doing the bottom ribbing. Alright guys, so you can see I have finished seaming up my hood. I just did slip stitches across, and it does have a little bit of a rounded effect, so I'm going to go ahead and turn that right side out, and it looks like this. It's not too pointed, but it's not completely rounded. I like it. I'm sure it'll work for my niece. So later we will be coming back to the hood to clean up these edges around the V-neck and around the hood, and also optionally, or I'm going to show you guys how to add where you would put a drawstring. Of course, that part is entirely optional. But for now, we are going to go down here to the bottom of our hoodie, and we are going to start working on the bottom, and we're going to be closing up our kangaroo pocket here at the bottom, and then we are going to be also doing the bottom ribbing. So we're going to want to start off at the side where we seamed up. Now I'm using black yarn, so the stitching is going to be a little hard for you guys to see, and I do apologize for that. That is just because my niece happens to like black and orange. Those are her favorite colors. So I am using black to accent with, and like I said, I do apologize for that. So I'm going to start with a slip knot on my hook. And this first row is going to be really easy. We're going to be rejoining our yarn right here in the side of, it's the same hole that we seamed up, and you can see the seam where we seamed right here. We're just going to put our hook right in there, and we're going to do, I'm sorry guys, we're going to do a standing single crochet. We're going to flip that tail over like that. And so we're going to go, you can see right here there's actually a stitch right there. But I'm going to place one right here next to the seam just to kind of make sure that there's not too much pull on this seam. So I'm going to place one right here like that before I jump into these bottom chain stitches. If you recall, these are actually the V's from our original starting chain when we made the front panel. So we're going to go ahead and just place a single crochet in each stitch. All the way across until we get to our two marked stitches over here where our kangaroo pocket starts. And like I said, I'm just going to work over the top of my tails to make things easier for me. I am sorry about my dogs. They're outside. I'm not entirely sure what it is that they're barking at. I hope they're not too loud. But yeah, we're just placing single crochets in each of these chain stitches. Two more. So in my case, my pocket was 26 stitches across, and if you recall, I had you guys mark the pocket with the 26 stitches that you would need to work this stitch for stitch. So what we are going to be doing, we're going to go ahead and pull out this first stitch marker, and we're actually going to be single crocheting into both panels, or both the pocket and the panel. So we're going to go into the pocket, that first one that was marked, and then we're going to go in to the stitch that was marked, and we're just going to single crochet the two together. And then if you counted correctly, you should be able to just single crochet stitch for stitch the bottom of the pocket to the bottom of your front panel. Whoop. And you will notice, like right here, you'll notice it doesn't entirely go that's okay, because you're not getting anything through it, you know what I mean? It doesn't create a hole or anything, but you know, I like the way it looks, but I don't want you to think that there's going to be a hole there or anything, because there won't be. Now, in the written pattern, it does say to, for the ribbing, it will tell you to drop down to a smaller sized hook. Fair warning, when we get to the ribbing on the bottom, I am not actually going to be doing that, just because I'm already using a smaller hook with a medium weight 4 yarn, so I'm actually just going to continue to use my 5.5 millimeter. But in the written pattern, if you have it and you're following it, it will tell you to drop down to a 5.5 millimeter from a 6.5 millimeter hook. So just some warning there if you're reading the pattern and just watching the video for reference. And only 2 more stitches to go for me. I can go ahead and take that stitch marker off. Don't worry about this tail, it's going to pull out a little bit, that's okay. So that is the last stitch where I have joined my kangaroo pocket. Now, in every other stitch, we're just going to continue going around, adding 1 single crochet into each chain. And I'm going to work over the top of that tail just to try to get it out of my way a little bit. Each chain, and then when you get to your seam, just like we did before, we're going to be putting 1 single crochet on each side of our seam to kind of anchor it before we jump into placing single crochets into the bottom chain of our back panel. Now, once you get all the way around, you will go ahead and join with a slip stitch. I am actually going to go check on my dogs and find out what is going on with them, and I will meet back up with you guys once I have finished getting all the way around, and we'll move on to the bottom ribbing of the sweater. Alright guys, so I've finished working around the bottom, and you can see my pocket is all closed up, and this is what it looks like. No little holes. I love the way I love the way the pocket turns out, and the way the sides and with the surface stitching. I love it. I really do. Anyways, so I've gone all the way around the bottom edge with single crochet. I've done all of the back panel. And I actually went in and wove in some of my ends as well. I wove in some of the ends on my inside just so that they'd be out of my way while we move on to the rest of the tutorial. So the next thing that we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and slip stitch to join the round. We're going to slip stitch the last single crochet to your first single crochet of the round. And just so you guys know, it doesn't matter really how many single crochets are in this bottom round. It doesn't, the total count doesn't matter. The only thing that really matters is whether or not you got that front pocket lined up stitch for stitch with the front panel. So next we're going to be doing the bottom ribbing. Let's see if I can get things adjusted a little bit. Y'all must get tired of hearing me say these types of things. So the way we're going to do the bottom ribbing is we are going to chain up as many as you would like the width of your ribbing to be. So in my case, I'm going to do 7 chains. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then we're going to be placing 1 single crochet starting from the 2nd chain in the hook. And we're going to work back up that chain. Now, like I said earlier in the tutorial, the written pattern will have you drop down from a 6.5 millimeter to a 5.5 millimeter hook to do this bottom ribbing. I am not doing that just simply because my hook is already the recommended hook size. I didn't want to go any smaller. So in the written pattern, you're going to see that it says it says for you to drop down a size. So that should leave me with 6 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, if you choose to make your ribbing wider, you can. I believe in the written pattern it says to chain 9, and the ribbing is a total of 8 stitches wide, but it's really up to you. So the next thing we're going to do is we are going to slip stitch into the same, into that same stitch that we joined in and that we put our chain stitches in. We're going to slip stitch into that very first stitch, and then we're going to slip stitch into the next stitch as well. And then we are going to turn our work, and it can be a little difficult to get a comfortable position in, because we're not chaining 1, we're just doing the 2 slip stitches, and then we're turning our work. So I know you guys can't see it very well, but there's a slip stitch there and a slip stitch there, and I'm going to turn my work, and I'm going to skip over those 2 slip stitches and work into the back loop of the single crochets that I made in the previous row. And I should have 6. In my case, I will have 6 single crochets, because I am going to just work single crochets in the back loop all the way down the row. So I have 1 and 6, and so you can see this is going to be the width of my my ribbing. It's only going to be maybe an inch and a quarter wide. It's not going to be very wide at all. So to do the next row, we're going to chain 1, turn our work again. This is a lot more difficult to do on camera than I realized it was going to be. And again, we're going to be working in the back loops only, placing single crochets, 1 single crochet in each stitch until we get back up to the body of the sweater. So in my case, that'll be 6 total. So this time we are going to slip stitch in the next open stitch. We're going to slip stitch not in this one, because we've already slip stitched into that stitch. We're going to slip stitch into the next stitch that doesn't have anything in it. And we're going to slip stitch in the next stitch as well. And just like before, we're going to turn our work, skip those 2 slip stitches and work in the back loop of the single crochets from the previous round, just placing 1 single crochet in each stitch. When we get to the end of the row, we're going to chain 1, we're going to turn our work and place 1 single crochet in the back loop again until we get up to the body of the sweater. And again, we are going to slip stitch into the next stitch that has absolutely nothing in it. You can see right here, this one has a slip stitch in it. Hopefully you guys can see it. This one has a slip stitch in it, so we're going to go right into the next one and we're going to place a slip stitch, and we're going to do another slip stitch in the stitch that follows that. And so you're going to do that all the way around, adding your bottom ribbing. This is what mine is starting to look like. I will meet back up with you guys once I get all the way around so that I can show you guys how to finish off the ribbing in a way where the tail end will be on the inside and doesn't have the possibility of coming out and being seen. We're gonna do it in just a specific way so that it will be that way instead of down, and it'll come out. Alright guys, so you can see that I finished the bottom ribbing. I did already go ahead and seam the bottom ribbing up. I forgot to film it, but I did decide that I'm gonna go ahead and make a short tutorial video using a lighter color for you guys to refer to on how I do the bottom ribbing. Now, if you'd rather not refer to that video, that's okay. Basically what I did when I got to the last 2 slip stitches, let go of my cord, Kiwi, I just worked my single crochets down and then chained 1, and similar to the way that we did the hood, I brought the 2 pieces together and I slip stitched from here up, and then there's my tail, and I'll weave that in later so that if it does ever come out, it won't be hanging down. I know that that is very difficult to see, but that's what I did. These are just slip stitches to bring the 2 edges of the ribbing together, and that's what it looks like. So since I've already got my accent color on hand, we're going to be putting a slip knot on our hook, and we're going to be working around the hood to clean up the edges of our hood, and also as a setup round for I'm not sure what you would call it, but I guess the loop that you would put your drawstring through if you wanted to put a drawstring through. Now the drawstring is optional, you don't have to have it, but I figured I would show you guys how to do it anyways. So we're going to start with a standing single crochet. Keep playing with this, and we're going to start in this side of the stitch that we joined our hat or our hood in. So we're going to start right here. We joined our hood right here, and we're going to place a standing single crochet in there. And we're going to go ahead and just place another one in the next available row. It's not, doesn't matter too much how many single crochets you have in this row. It would probably though be best if you marked this first stitch, just because we will be going up and around the hood all the way around, and then we're going to be doing the V-neck as well in that accent color. And then when we go to do the hood portion, or the tube portion for the drawstring, we'll be starting in this stitch. And I'm just working over this tail here, and I'm just going to be placing one single crochet into each row in the side of each row. So this hoodie is just giving off a lot of Halloween vibes. But my niece loves black and orange. She really, really does. So at the top of the hood, where that seam is, right here, instead of doing single crochets, we're actually going to single crochet the two sides of the seam together, just to make sure that there's not too much tension on the seam. So I'm going to single crochet these two sides of the seam together. By putting that edging along there, it takes any pressure that would be on this seam, and it kind of reinforces it. So we're going to just single crochet the two sides of the seam together into one single crochet, and then we're going to go back to just placing single crochets in each row. If you guys end up making this hoodie, you guys will have to shoot me some emails showing me what colors you guys chose and what yarns. I think that would be a great thing to see how you guys worked up the hoodie that, you know, I designed. I would love to see somebody do that. Depending on what size you made, if you look here, you're just going to be jumping into the available stitch, or basically the available holes. And depending on how many times you decreased, initially I did 3, and then I just changed it and decided to do 5, because I felt like this portion of it wasn't wide enough. So, but you're going to just be jumping into these holes here and, you know, placing your single crochets. Like I said, it doesn't matter too much how many single crochets you have in this round. You can jump into this one and place a single crochet as well. Now, I decreased enough that I only had one spider stitch left. You can see I just have the one spider stitch left right here. Across this spider stitch though, I'm going to be placing one single crochet, and I'm going to be placing a single crochet in the chain space as well as one in the other single crochet. And then I'm going to continue back up this way. So depending on the size of the hoodie that you're making, you may have, you know, 3, 5, you know, spider stitches across here, and you'll just single crochet into every stitch across. And I've got one more to go, and I'm going to go ahead and slip stitch into this first single crochet, the standing single crochet, to join the round. So that's how we clean up our edges for the hood. Now this next portion is optional. So you don't actually have to do it if you don't want to. But I like to put a little drawstring in in my hoodies. So we're going to be doing this first row. We're going to stop right here on this side of our hood. You can see where your hood was started. Right there is where we started our hood on this side. I forgot to tell you guys to mark that stitch when you made it. But that's going to be the last stitch that we work into. And I'm going to go ahead and mark mine just because you don't have to. If you can see where you started your hood, you don't have to. But we're going to be working from this side around, and then we're going to be turning our work and working back around, and we're going to do that a couple of times. So we're going to go ahead and chain up 2, and we're going to be working double crochet for this row. We're going to be working double crochets in the back loop, or excuse me, the front loop, I'm sorry, front loop only, of each stitch until we get around to that last stitch that we marked on the other side. So we're going to be working front loop only double crochet until we get all the way over here to the other side. So we're just working the hood, hood portion. We're not working this side, this V, the front of our hoodie right here. We're not working that. So I am going to go ahead and work my way around. But like I said, this is easy, simple, front loop only. We're just going to be going into that front loop of each stitch, working our way back over to our marked stitch. I will meet back up with you guys once I have finished this row, and I will show you guys the next step. Alright guys, so you can see I've double crocheted all the way around the hood, and I'm at my last double crochet, or at my last stitch, so I'm going to go ahead and place my last double crochet in the front loop only, just like that. And this next row is going to be your repeat row for the drawstring part. Now I'm going to repeat it twice, so I'm going to show you guys how to start that. You're just going to chain up 2, turn your work, and super easy, we're just going to be placing 1 double crochet in each stitch all the way around the hood. And like I said, I'm going to be repeating that twice, so I'll actually have a total of 3 rows of double crochet. If you are using a thicker yarn, you might have to do, 4 rows total. You can see this is our back loop from the, and we're going to be working back into that later. Hopefully you guys can see it. But there's our back loops that we're going to be working into later. But if you're using a thicker yarn to make your drawstring, you might have to do 4 rows. There are a couple different ways that you can do your drawstring. You can either chain a length of yarn. You can make a very long chain to go through your drawstring, or you can use ribbon. My intention is to use ribbon for my niece's hoodie. So hopefully I have enough yarn, or enough ribbon. So there are 2 options, but either way, if you choose to do the drawstring, you're gonna need either maybe a straw or a piece of zip tie will work, something to be able to pull your string through your drawstring once you have once we've closed this piece up. So I'm gonna meet back up with you guys after I have done my 2 more rows of double crochet. Once I'm ready to close it up, I'll meet back up with you guys and show you guys how to go ahead and do that. Alright guys, so you can see I have worked up the first 3 rows of our little tube thing that we will put our drawstring through. The next thing that we are going to be doing is we're going to turn our work. You can see the back loops down here, which is the back loops from the single crochet row. And we are just going to, we're not chaining one or anything, just once we get that last double crochet in there, we're going to turn our work and we're going to go directly into, what is that on my hoodie? We're going to go into that first back loop right there, and then we're going to go into that double crochet. And let me see if I can get my working yarn. I need my working yarn back there. Yes, I know. So we're going to be going through the back loop of the first single crochet and then into that first double crochet, and we're just going to slip stitch. And we are going to place a slip stitch in each back loop so that we are forming a loop of double crochets, which later we will be threading either a piece of ribbon, or you can use a length of chain if you want to make your drawstring. But we'll be doing slip stitches all the way around on the inside of the hood to form that loop, and what's going to happen is it's going to fold over like that. Alternatively, you can do maybe like the faux fur along the edge. Instead of using a drawstring, you could do faux fur and make it a fluffy hood. Something of that nature. Just lots of different ideas for the hood, how you want to trim it, you know. But for my niece, I'm going to do a drawstring. Hopefully I have enough ribbon. I was planning on doing ribbon for hers. If I don't, I will have to do a length of chain stitches, which, since I have you here, I will go ahead and just show you for the length of chain stitches. If that's what you want to do, I would suggest going back to the body color, and you're just going to do a regular slip knot, and of course you're just going to chain as many as is needed to go through the hood. And then here in a bit, if this is the way you choose to do it, or if you choose to do it with ribbon, here in a bit, once I am finished doing my slip stitches on this, I will come back on and I will show you guys how to thread your drawstring through this loop. but you can see it's about the width of my finger, so it shouldn't be too difficult. You're gonna need, like I said, a straw or a piece of zip tie, or even a safety pin is something that will work to draw it through without snagging. It can be a pain to do this, but I'm going to show you guys the easiest ways that I know how to do this. Anyways, I will meet back up with you guys here in a little bit. Alright guys, so I have finished my little drawstring tubey thing, and I'll have to come back later and weave that in. This one I'm just going to snip off because I don't want to have to weave it in any further. I don't want to deal with it, so I'm just going to snip it off. I could not find enough ribbon to go through the tube, so I just trained a length. You can, and I was thinking while I was doing this, you can also do I-cord if you wanted to. Also, we couldn't find a straw, so I'm gonna have to show you guys how to do this with a skinny crochet hook. Casey, can you hand me that box there, please? Oh, that fell down. Okay. Ow! Oh, sorry. Let go. I can't. Alright. That project's over there is gonna need, probably, I'm just gonna frog it. It was just something I was... Oh, there's those scissors. I was wondering where these went. So, I'm gonna be having to show you how to put this in with a skinny crochet hook, one that doesn't have a handle on it. I'm gonna leave these scissors out because I like them. Wait, I already put them back in, didn't I? Yes, I did. I like these scissors. I'm gonna leave them out. Okay, I'll put that over there for now. So what we're gonna do with this, we're going to take our end and we're just gonna slip it in there so that the hook is on there, and then we're gonna feed it up through in the tube like this. And it will slowly go on there. Did I lose it? I did. I lost it. Uh-oh. Do what? I'm gonna pull it through. Back in through the same hole. Like I said, you can do this with a straw or a I don't recommend a safety pin, but it is possible to do with a safety pin. You can use a zip tie. You can tie it to the end of the zip tie. Oh, it didn't go through that time. Try again. But you can see I've got it coming through two double crochets, so I've got to go back into that hole. Did it go over the top of one? But yeah, doing this with a safety pin is very difficult. I tried that on one of my sweaters and it was just a pain. Almost to the end now. All right. We've got it pulled all the way through. Now we just got to even it up a bit. Oh, wrong way. She's got plenty of space, or, you know, plenty of stuff to tie herself a bow if that's what she wants. It's actually probably on mine a little bit too long because it actually does hang all the way down here. So in my case it's probably a little bit too long, but that's okay. Later on down the road, when I can, I plan on getting her maybe some little charms to hang off of her hoodie, and when I go to do that I can actually take a couple of these chain stitches out. So that is how we do the hood, and I'm sorry it took so long. So the next thing that we're going to be moving on to is the sleeves. You can see that the sleeve holes on my hoodie are a little bit smaller than what they originally were. That's because I went in and I seamed up a few more stitches just to make it a little bit smaller. I only need a 6-inch hole for her arm to fit through, so I only had to measure from here to here, and it only needed to be 3 inches on either side of the hoodie. That being said, it's going to make finishing up this hoodie much easier. We're going to switch to the body color. And I'm going to put a slip knot on my hook. we're going to start down here at the seam. So it's not going to matter too much how many spider stitches you have around. But we are going to put a standing single crochet in here. And then we're going to put that tail inside of the hoodie. We're going to chain one, and then we're going to go over into the next side and into the next row, if you guys can see that. It's going to be this one here, and we're going to place a spider stitch over the seam. And then in the next side of the next row, we're going to place a single crochet, chain one, and then in the next one we're going to place another single crochet. And then again we're going to single crochet in the next one, chain one, single crochet. And we're going to be doing that all the way around of the sleeve, and we're going to actually end up we're going to be working the spider stitch in the round now. So we're going to be, this is I guess our foundation row for a spider stitch, but we're just one single crochet, chain one, and then another single crochet in the next row. And it's okay if you have, if the stitch count is a little bit off. It's not that big of a deal. Chain one, see, in this situation we're going to be placing a single crochet in the top seam. That's the side of the seam right there, and it's going to be a single crochet there, but on the other side of the seam we're going to place another single crochet, and then it's going to be chain one, single crochet in the next. So I mean it depends on the size, it depends on the measurements of your armhole, but it doesn't matter a great deal, the stitch count doesn't. As long as you fit your spider stitches in there. As long as you can fit your spider stitches in there, even if that means kind of fudging it and, you know, placing maybe, you know, more than what you would usually place in that space. Rotate this a little bit. It's getting a little heavier, it's harder to move around. So here's where we started, and I have just enough. I have 2 rows that I can go ahead and place one last spider stitch. I'm going to single crochet in the side of this row, chain one, single crochet into the side of the next row, and then I am going to join this row with a slip stitch, and then I'm going to chain one and turn my work. And the reason that we do it this way is to keep our seam underneath the arm. So right here is where we slip stitched. Right here is our first single crochet for a spider stitch, and then there's our chain one, and we are just going to jump into that chain one and place a spider stitch. And this is going to be the repeat row. We're just going to be placing spider stitches into each one of those chain one spaces. space. I'm almost done with this row. One, two, there's going to be a chain one space there. And so this is the row that you're going to go ahead and repeat for the length of your sleeve. And we are going to skip these 2 stitches here. That was our slip stitch, and we are going to join in the first single crochet of our first spider stitch by slip stitching, and then we're going to chain 1 and turn our work. So it's going to look something to the effect of this. And you're just going to repeat that row until your sleeve measures from the body out to your desired length. Now, I looked on the Craft Yarn Council, and according to them, my sleeves should be about 8 inches in length when measuring underneath the arm, which is what I tend to measure underneath the arm. And then after that, we will be moving on to the ribbing for the sleeve. So I will meet back up with you guys once I have my 8 inches worth of sleeve worked up. Alright guys, so you can see I have finished my rows for the sleeve. Now this stitch marker marks the first row of actual spider stitch. So there was this setup row or setup round right here, which I didn't count, and then I kept track of how many rows of actual spider stitch I did in the round so that I will know how many to do on the other sleeve. Right now I am at the end of round 29, which I'm just kind of eyeballing the length of the sleeve. I already know my niece is not going to be able to fit this for too long because the body is just not quite as long as I wanted it to be. It'll fit her for a little bit, but it'll get moved on to one of her cousins fairly quickly. But it is time to go ahead and do the ribbing on the sleeve. And we're going to do that in the same way that we did the bottom ribbing down here. So I'm at the end of row 29. Hopefully you guys can see that. And instead of just joining with a regular slip stitch, I'm actually going to change color. And I'm going to add my black. Oop. Maybe I'm going to add my black. It's been a little bit of a trying day, guys. I'm sorry. So once I get that in there, I like to come back and cut my yarn so that they're somewhat of the same length. It's not a terribly big deal if they're not, but I like to tie these two ends together. And probably I'll just be single crocheting over the top of those. So the first thing we're going to be doing, we're going to pull those over, we're going to single crochet, or we're going to chain one, I'm sorry, and then we're going to single crochet in that very first stitch right over the top of our tail ends. Now, if you wanted to, I'm sorry, this is kind of hard to keep in frame. If you wanted to kind of cinch the sleeve in a little bit, you would skip the chain 1 spaces and only place single crochets in the single crochet stitches of your spider stitches. Now, I don't want to cinch it in just because, you know, my niece is only 6. I'm not sure that she would care for that. So I'm going to be placing a single crochet in each stitch and in each single crochet. Or I mean each chain space. So every chain space and every stitch I'm going to be placing a single crochet in. Now if you want it cinched in a little bit, you're going to do just the stitches, not the chain spaces. And I'm just going over the top of my tail ends. Also, if you wanted your ribbing to be a little tighter around your wrist, you can drop down a size, just like with the bottom ribbing. It really is not that big of a deal as far as how many stitches you have. Like I said, we're going to do the sleeve ribbing just like we did the bottom ribbing of this sweater. It's a join as you go ribbing, and I did go ahead and make a tutorial, and I will link it in the description box in case anybody wants to refer to that. And if I remember during the editing process, I will put it up here in, or up there in the corner, in case anybody wants to refer to it, because I know that, you know, using this dark yarn, it is a little bit harder to see the actual stitches. We're going to go ahead and slip stitch to join. And we're going to chain 8. You can chain more if you like to make the ribbing, you know, longer, if that's what you want. But I'm going to go ahead and chain 8. And then in the second chain from the hook, we are going to single crochet. And we're going to single crochet all the way back up that chain. So in my case, I should have 7 single crochets. Now, for this first one, hopefully you guys can see. Can't zoom in anymore. For this first row, we're going to go ahead and we're going to slip stitch into the same stitch that we started, the same stitch that has our chain in it. And then we're going to go ahead and slip stitch into the next stitch as well. And then we are going to turn, we're going to turn our work, preferably so that the working yarn is behind. And then we're going to skip those 2 slip stitches that we just made and jump into the first single crochet. So skipping that slip stitch and that slip stitch, we're going to jump into that first single crochet, and in the back loop only we're going to single crochet again. And we're going to do that all the way down. So in my case, I will have 7 single crochets in the back loop only. And now we're going to chain 1 and turn. And again, we're working in the back loops only, and we're going to place 1 single crochet in each stitch. This time when we do our slip stitches, we are going to skip this stitch right here that already has a slip stitch in it, and we're going to slip stitch into the next 2 stitches. So skipping that first one, slip stitch in the next one, and then slip stitch in the next one. And then again, we're going to turn our work and we're going to skip those 2 slip stitches, jump right into the back loop of the first single crochet, and we're going to single crochet down the row in the back loops. And then once again we will chain 1, turn our work, and single crochet in the back loops. And you're going to repeat those 2 rows all the way around. And then when you get to the end, you're going to join them with slip stitches on the inside. I guess you could seam them up as well if you wanted to with a needle. I always use slip stitches though. And that is how we are going to do our ribbing on the sleeve. And so this is what it's starting to look like. It you can see the single crochets actually kind of make the bottom of the sleeve flare out just a smidgen. That's why I say if you want to draw it back in, you can either skip the chain 1 spaces, or you can drop down a hook size maybe to a 4.5 millimeter hook. But that is how I do the sleeve. So for my other sleeve, I will do the foundation row right here, like I showed you earlier in the video, and then I will work 29 rows of spider stitch, or 29 rounds, and then I will do a row of single crochet in black, and then I'll do the ribbing in black, and then the hoodie is completed. After that, all you have left to do is weave in your ends, which I have one here. I have a bunch around the pocket. There's usually quite a bit of, you know, especially if you do your pocket the way I did with the surface crocheting. Yeah, and that's how you make the spider stitch hoodie. Like I said. Alright guys, so that was my spider stitch hoodie tutorial. I know it's very basic. I do apologize for that. I am hoping to get a written pattern out soon that goes into maybe a little bit more detail. But I don't know. To me, it feels a little bit basic. But it gives you the basic idea of how to work up that hoodie. I've made that hoodie now. I think the orange one is the 3rd one. And I also have a purple one over here, which will be the 4th one. Everybody really, really likes this hoodie. So yeah, if you guys decide to work it up, let me know what you think. How is it going for you guys? I love to see pictures if you guys finish it. Yeah, I am gonna go and get this video edited and uploaded for you guys. Hopefully it's not too terribly long, but there's a good chance it's probably gonna be like, I don't know, an hour and a half, 2 hours long. But on the bright side, you guys can always pause it since it's a video tutorial. Anyways, guys, thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate the channel support, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.